Welcome to Our Town, a 30-minute podcast brought to you by Best Bark Communications, a small but fierce client-centered marketing company powered by decades of experience and well-established business networks.
This is Andy Ockershouse, and this is Our Town. And today we welcome a friend I've known for over 40 years. He's a big voice in our town. He's helped us, meaning the population, get around town for most of that time. You've heard his voice on radio. You've seen his face on TV news, talking about one of the biggest issues that affects us daily. He's been on the pulse of transportation issues. His name has appeared in the Washington Post more than 500 times, sometimes favorably, I may add. He can speak on any topic related to traffic safety, holiday travel, speed cameras, gas taxes, and driving in snow. He's been the spokesman for AAA Mid-Atlantic for most of his career. He sits with me on the board of directors of the Washington Area Regional Alcohol Program, which grew out of some ideas that we had on WMAL years ago with Jerry Sachs and others, and we started this whole effort with rap. And he's my friend of many, many years and a great, great citizen of our town. Is Lon Anderson. Welcome to our town.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Well, Lon, I mean, this is like home week for you to come back to WMAL, because even though you weren't on our payroll, you were on the air so much when we were WMAL.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I remember Hardin and Weaver and Trumbull and Core. I mean, boy, what history here.
Two for the road.
Two for the road. You know, when I was thinking about Trumbull and Core, I mean, it was the generational gap there. I mean, you know, that really made it. I mean,
the pairings was unbelievable, wasn't it?
It was. It wasn't a natural pairing that you would have expected. These weren't two people of the same age at all. They were different generations. But boy, talk about making the evening drive a little easier for all those motorists.
Well, it was so incredible the way they got along beautifully. They were entertainers, and that's what they were information outlets, but really entertaining, as Hardin and Weaver always were. They were entertaining. And Ken Beatrice, even though he was a little kooky, he was an entertainer. That was the old WMAL, to entertain people, make their drive safer going and coming to the office.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think in those days, WMAL owned the morning and evening drive time. Hardin and Weaver dominating in the morning, and I think Trumbull and Core in the evening.
Dominating in the afternoon.
Yep.
We even did great on the weekends because we were the Washington Redskins station, as you know.
And they were winning then. It's amazing what a winning team, what the size audience a winning team attracts.
5 Super Bowls, won 3 of them. That hasn't happened since 1992.
Yeah.
What is that, 28 years, something like that, 24 years. But Lon Anderson is a local guy, and he was an undergrad at Montgomery College, and then he went to the University of Maryland.
Yep.
And then finished up at AU. So you had your education career in the greater Washington, in our town.
Absolutely. That
launched
Been here all my life.
Lon, well, how in the world did you go from that to the Mid-Atlantic AAA? I mean, you must have paid your dues to get up that far.
Oh, well, I did. I had done public relations in many forums. In fact, I had been a spokesman for 2 different secretaries of education many years ago, and I had been a vice president of communications for a trade association. So, I had been around, knew the media well, and
You fell into it really, but actually you began your career in journalism as a writer. Is that correct, with the Frederick Post?
With the Frederick Post, yeah. I was a cub reporter. For Frederick Post, I covered Montgomery County council meetings as part of the Montgomery County Bureau of the Frederick Post.
Is that paper still alive? Of course.
Oh, the Frederick Post, very much so. Yeah.
Is it a daily or weekly?
It's a daily.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Now it must be in Clover, because of what's happened to Frederick and northern Montgomery County. Correct?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think some weekends it's fatter than the Washington Post is, or the Sunday Post.
Is that right? I think that's wonderful. I know the suburban papers, like the Capitol in Annapolis, that is like it on Sunday. It's like a phone book. And I'm sure the Post is that way with inserts and so forth. I recall vividly Montgomery County and let's say the northern part, that Veers Mill Road and others were like two lanes road. To go to Richard Montgomery High School to play a basketball game, in the 40s or 50s, it was like going in the country.
Oh,
I mean, it was in another world.
absolutely. I remember when civilization
Farmers.
kind of ended Aspen Hill. I mean, it wasn't quite a dirt road, but Georgia Avenue past Aspen Hill was a 2-lane road, and it was definitely country. You went out there to buy an ice cream cone up there at the Silo Inn. You were in the boonies then. I mean, you were sharing the road with cows and horses and stuff.
I remember when they had sent the club, when it was a Brook Manor Club or something. That was like the end of the world to go out there. But then it began to change, and then you noticed it.
Yeah.
And you, of course, you were at the forefront of it. You worked for the county, you worked for the government, but you had a great experience as a reporter. You learned things from the ground. That's the way to do it. You were editor-in-chief of the News Express. That was a weekly, the News Express?
I was a weekly over in Bowie, Maryland. I did that for a couple of years. And then I bought my own weekly newspaper. It was then the Damascus Courier. It was a failing little weekly. And that was the only thing I could afford to buy at my young age.
You owned the paper.
I owned the paper. And I decided it was time to see if all the things I thought would make a good community newspaper work would happen. And I was looking for a paper that was failing, but I thought failing for management reasons. And in Damascus, I thought, growth is going to come to Damascus. That's a market. If I can just hold on, it will come, and then I'll be in clover. And sure enough, Damascus, a few years after I bought the Courier, opened, and they had a People's Drug Store and a Safeway that came, and then we made it
that's a big hit.
County Courier, and took it down to Olney, and Olney opened a giant food, and they had I think it was a drug fair, and so suddenly
the Olney Dinner Theater.
Oh yeah, so suddenly we were signing 100,000 line contracts with Safeway and giant food. So that kind of made
why
it.
did you get out of that business? Well, that seemed to me to be on the cusp of really making a big hit.
It was, but you remember in the early '80s we hit a recession.
Oh yeah,
and that hit us kind of hard too. And I didn't have deep pockets, and I had someone who was getting tired of competing against me. He happened to own the Gazette newspapers, and he came over and had a little talk with me. He said, I think it would be easier to buy you guys out than
to compete with
you. You're costing me a lot of money. And so I became part of the Gazette papers. And then, of course, the Gazette papers bought by the Post, and now they're all folded. And that's to
sad,
me,
I think.
that
It's
is really
sad
sad, because community journalism in all places, just think about this. In Montgomery County, Maryland, community journalism is really pretty much non-existent now. It really is. I mean, where's the Gazette newspaper? Who's covering? I mean, we used to cover silly things, but they were important to the people. Pinewood Cub Scout Pinewood Derbies. I mean, now.
But they were community events.
Sure,
Our town was so important. I know what you're saying. I say all the time to young people, unfortunately, the newspaper business has changed dramatically, but I don't know how you get by in today's world without reading a newspaper. But most people under the age 50 don't read a newspaper. You know that.
Yeah.
And they don't listen to AM radio under 40. I mean, we have maybe 80% of our population has never listened to AM radio. And the same, they get all their information off of their phones or the TV set. And that's still not the newspaper.
Frankly, that to me is scary, because
you
can't make in-depth arguments and throw out theories that you have time to sit and think about. And I'm always bouncing them off my wife. Hey, listen to this. I like this, and I'll read her a paragraph or two, and then she'll shut me up and say enough. But you're right.
You grew up with newspapers. They're a big part of your life.
And I love the editorial pages where the ideas are thrown out.
I agree.
I may get angry at some of them. Others, I think, yeah, that's a great idea.
But to just have it in your hand and use it as a information thing is so important, Lon. And you started, but then you got out of that business. I want to talk to you about your other life, which after your journalism life. But we were owned by the Evening Star newspaper. You knew
right?
That.
Oh, I remember.
And when the Star folded, I thought the city was the big loser because the Post needed the Star to keep them on their toes, and that didn't happen. So it became a one newspaper town, and then the Post had all the editorial. The Star would disagree, and they had great editorial.
Well, they did. They were a vital paper, and of course they had a tremendous history in this town that preceded the Washington
Absolutely.
Post. And
but being an evening paper, they began to compete with television, and they couldn't do it.
Oh.
And they couldn't. The other thing that the people that ran the paper told me, transportation became travel to deliver those papers in the afternoons was very difficult. Whereas
Absolutely.
the Post was doing it in dark, they had to do it in drive time.
Yeah.
And so they gave up and said, we can't make it here, and they folded the paper.
I know, but
So
you know,
sad.
the shame of it is, of course, it started out being owned by a family. When that family sold it, I think it was it to Time Life? I can't remember, but I think it was Time Magazine. I thought, oh, good, now they've got deep pockets.
We thought so too.
They've got the resources. But I think as soon as you separated that from WMAL TV and
Channel 7,
Channel
right.
7, and then became JLA,
Right.
WJLA. I thought as soon as you separated the newspaper to force it to stand alone without the broadcast revenue, that there was going to be a problem. But at least Time Magazine and that whole publishing company thought they've got deep pockets.
They thought so.
They can make it go. I was
Couldn't
very
do it.
disappointed when they decided to fold it.
Well, Ron, getting back to your career, we're going to talk about the wonderful work you've been doing for so many years with transportation information. And again, transportation problems kill the Washington Star. They told me that. I was here when they folded. So we'll be right back on Our Town with Lon Anderson, and we're going to be talking about the AAA and traffic. This is Andy Ockershausen talking to Tommy Giacomo and bragging about his restaurant, The Palm.
Hi, I'm Tommy Giacomo. I want you to come down and see me at the Palm Restaurant. I've been there for 43 years. We have great steaks, great lobsters, great food. Caricatures on the wall. It's just a fun place to eat and drink. We're located at 19th and N, just below DuPont Circle. For reservations, call 202-293-9091. That's 202-293-9091. www.thepalm.com.
This is Andy Ockershausen. This is Our Town, and we're talking to a famous person for WMAL and WMAL listeners, a man that had the Mid-Atlantic Director of Public and Governmental Affairs, and he did his opinions on WMAL for so many years, and we loved it, and we love to have him as a guest. And I want to talk to him now about what he views as, over the years, Ron, this traffic problem has become the same problem we were talking about 50 years ago we're still talking about, that is getting around our town.
Yeah. We have steadfastly not addressed transportation here in the Washington metropolitan area. And when we have, we've often gotten it wrong. Bass-ackwards, as some would say. You know, I remember when I was a kid, with my sister and I, my grandmother said one day, she always called me by my first name, Malin. She said, Malin, today we're going to take a trip. We're going to go ride. We're going to go ride the streetcars. Today will be the last day that the streetcars will be operating in Washington.
Oh my!
And we got on the streetcars. I think it was up in Georgia and Alaska, and we rode downtown. We rode out to Glen Echo. We came back into town. I'll never forget, we had lunch out on the sidewalk at Basson's. I think it was the only outdoor cafe operating in
New York Avenue, 14th?
Yeah, Washington at 14th, yeah. And
I know Basson's.
Yep, and we got back on the streetcars and rode some more. I'll never forget, she put her finger in my face, and she said, Washington will rue the day it ends the streetcar service. And I remember, because I had to say, Grandmother, what does rue mean? Yeah, just a little kid.
Well, you never can forget that.
No. So,
not only
anyway,
the word, but you don't forget her word. She was absolutely right.
Well,
I know
absolutely.
that.
So what do we do now? Fast forward 40, 50 years, and we have a streetcar going, what is it, a couple $2 billion for a mile or two? I mean,
road to nowhere.
Yeah, well, oh my God.
That's incredible.
And then and she used, when we would pass the National Archives, she would always tell me, she says, look up there on the National Archives, they've got those words, study the past. The past is prologue. Well, in transportation too.
Absolutely. We use that as the basis of this program. I think in our first show, Janice and I talked about it. We said what's past this community was prologue to what's happening now. That's why we're so anxious to talk to you and others of yours. You've been here, you know what it's been, and you know what it's been, and therefore you're going to say it's going to continue that way because that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They're not going to address the problem.
Absolutely. And it's very frustrating when you come in as I was the kind of the head of public and government affairs in the Washington metropolitan area for AAA, and you want to improve things for motorists. And it doesn't seem like a stretch to be able to sit down with elected officials and say, you know, your constituents are wasting time in traffic every day. They're frustrated about it. You want to gain some votes? Shorten their commutes and make them safer. These are things that will make you popular with your constituents. You'd think it was a no-brainer,
exactly.
But they
refuse
to do it.
It
You know, it's a non sequitur here for me. I don't get it. And it was an argument that I made with them, whether it was in Montgomery County or whether it was in the District of Columbia or Northern Virginia.
Well, give me a couple of ideas with some fixes that are right there and they can't see the forest for the trees.
Well, let's look at what Virginia's been doing, for example. Some years ago, I mean, they got on it and they took one of the very worst areas, the Springfield Mixing Bowl. Remember, that's what we called the Mixing Bowl for Springfield Mixing Bowl. But they then added bridges. They redid that. It was a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar project. But God bless them. They tackled it and they did it. And, you know, they also put in the Fairfax County Parkway, which was on the old right-of-way for the outer belt, what was to have been the outer beltway.
Right.
And
right.
Virginia guy arrived and said, well, at the conclusion, well, if they're not going to build an outer beltway, at least we can help our folks and get them from 66 to 95 and not make them go down to the beltway to cross it. Well, all of this time, and then of course, they just put in the Silver Line to eventually get mass transit out all the way to Dulles. Right now it's Wheelie Avenue.
Yeah, with Wheelie's the end.
They've made all those improvements. And meanwhile, what did we do in suburban Maryland? I like to think of suburban Maryland, you know, as Rip Van Maryland. They were on the long transportation slumber. Virginia is systematically going at each of their major corridors, and now they're tackling 66 and improving them. Let's see, what has Maryland done? Have they improved 95? No. Well, how about I-270? Well, no. Let's see. And, oh, yeah, that's right. It took us 50 years to decide to build the ICC.
That was Paris Spendenning, we called him. Paris was against that. And
well, you know, he
was
ran his first campaign. He said, elect me and I will build the ICC. His second campaign, it says, elect me and I will not build the ICC.
Oh, he did that. Right in the same population.
It was amazing. And, you know, it was interesting. I had some fairly harsh comments the day after he announced that he was against the ICC. I had some fairly harsh comments about his being, you know, the biggest flip-flopper in history.
Glendenning.
Yeah, Glendenning. And, you know, I think that's probably the first time I've been called by a governor.
Wow.
And read the riot act. I'll tell you, he was not pleased with my comments.
Bet.
He told me
he had a very passionate thing with me. He's a powerful guy in the state of Maryland. He held up. He almost stood out in the roadway there. I know that he didn't want it. We would preach editorially, you got to build the ICC. It's inevitable. Why are you going to put it off? And they put it off and put it off. And every year they put it off, Ron. How were those prices? They would go up 10, 20% a year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was just, you know, it's one of those roads that needed to be built. And Montgomery County tries so hard to be so sensitive to the environmental community that unfortunately it gives them an effective veto over so many projects that need to be done. And, you know, and you fast forward to today. I don't know whether you saw the coverage, but right now, the planners in Montgomery County have suggested that they don't need, before a developer wants to do a building now, maybe they won't now do traffic counts and be concerned about traffic because, of course, everybody's going to be on mass transit. Well, You kind of think, have they legalized marijuana in Montgomery County? What are they smoking? I didn't realize they had, but I don't know. But,
right,
but
what you're saying. There could be any other reason. It's so stupid.
And here's the other thing. They are all about mass transit. Well, Andy, where do you think buses run? Do they run on the roads? I think they do. So let me understand now. As a matter of fact, in Maryland, buses carry twice as many people as rail. Anyway, so now we're going to just let the roads continue to deteriorate. Oh, by the way, we do remember that in the Washington metropolitan area, our congestion is amongst the worst in the nation. So we're starting at a pretty low bar, but we're going to go lower. God bless them. I mean, how do you do this?
And they're planners.
They
get paid for planning.
Oh, absolutely. And, but that's what they do. And that's how we get to be worst in this area. And it is just amazing. And, but in fairness to Montgomery County, they're not the only ones. I got involved in a big zoning fight a couple of years ago in D.C. because D.C. said, well, why don't we just not require new buildings to have any parking? If they're on a bus route or they're near metro, then they don't have to put in any parking.
I know what you're saying.
And oh my God, well, it was kind of funny. I was doing an interview at WAMU, and of course, the first building that the project that they agreed to do that on was right across the street from WAMU. So I looked at the person who was interviewing me, the transportation reporter. I said, so you're going to let some of us who might move into that building park over in your space? What? We don't have enough spaces here at WAMU. What are you talking about? But the fact is, I understand that there's a lot of bicycling in D.C., and that's good. I understand that they want more pedestrians, more people walking and bicycling. That's good. That makes for a healthy metropolitan area. But let's not think that everybody can do that. I have a theory, and here's my theory, that some of these millennials who say we don't need a car and therefore we don't need any parking, that they've got parents who each day are growing older. And when their parents come to visit, if they do, they're going to, do they want to walk 4 or 5 blocks at night to go find a parking space to go visit their kids who are living in this building with no parking? And then, of course, there's having children. I have a feeling that having children can change your mind about whether you may need a car or not.
Always it changes.
But, but God bless the millennials. Let them live in those buildings with no parking and ride their bicycles and everything. And let's hope that they don't get a broken leg that requires a cast. And let's hope that their parents always stay young and don't mind parking several blocks away and walking there even at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. But
these planners,
these planners, they need to have a splash of reality, just doused on them.
They're all theorists, and that's what kills me. And I know what you're saying about buildings that have no parking garages. How can you exist in this world?
Here's an interesting thing. The city that started that movement that says, okay, downtown, we can have buildings with no parking was Portland, Oregon. And the member of the city council who put that forward, it was like 2002 or something, he got that passed. Well, he became mayor about a decade later, and I think it was in 2012 as mayor, he said, we've got to end this policy. We have a real problem. People are not coming downtown because they can't find any place to park. And we're losing the fight.
Losing revenue, absolutely.
Losing revenue to the burbs and to all these places that have free parking. Well, golly day, I keep looking at downtown Washington and think, have they been out to Tyson's Corner there? You don't have to pay to park in Tyson's Corner. Don't they think that they're going to lose some retail revenue to places like Tyson's and Montgomery Mall and yeah,
it's all over the place. Well, and DC has tried to do something, but they still planners are not planning in reality. They're planning in objects. Build a building close to metro and everybody walks. So that's not true. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and we've seen it time after time.
And so now when we build in Montgomery County, we're not going to require traffic studies to tell us whether the traffic can sustain another high-rise apartment building. We just build it. Makes perfect sense to me if your goal is total congestion.
Well, we're going to take a break here on Our Town, and I'll never forget the guy that was the head of traffic for the city of New York said there was a way to solve the problem, make all the streets one way out of town and get rid of the cars, and you wouldn't have a problem. I thought it was a wonderful suggestion. Lon, thank you. We're going to take a break here on Our Town. We're talking to Lon Anderson. We're going to get back and talk about the AAA and his work with the schoolboy patrol and the whole thing, crossing guard. So we'll be right back here on Our Town.
This is Sonny Jurgensen. Got a confession to make. I let my wife drag me to one of those Mike Collins estate planning seminars. Like I don't have enough on my plate with a certain football team. Actually, it wasn't too bad. In fact, we both learned a whole lot about how to protect our kids and grandkids down the road and to take care of ourselves right now. So if you get one of Mike's invitations in the mail, go. I'm glad I did. Get all the information and register online at MikeCollins.com. That's MikeCollins.com.
You're listening to Our Town with Andy Ockershausen. Brought to you by Best Bark Communications.
We're talking to Lon Anderson. He's the Bhagwan of the Beltway, is what Trumlin Corps called him. But we're talking about bridges, and that's what I want you to talk about. And when they built the bridge across to the Eastern Shore, they built a beautiful, magnificent 2-lane bridge. The little bit I know about life, I said, this ain't going to last. You can't make it with 2 lanes. So they built another bridge. Aha! They didn't build 4 lanes, they built 3. I said, what is this? What are these engineers thinking of? Why they spend all that money to build a bridge and make it with 3 lanes? Anyway, Ron, that's my story, Lon, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's just it's planners.
No, you're exactly right. So now we have, Ocean City, Maryland, and all the vacation spots, and we got 5 lanes to get there. And it's not just 5 lanes Monday through Friday, it's 5 lanes Memorial Day. It's, oh my gosh, you just can't imagine. I was actually, Governor Ehrlich had appointed me to be on a task force to study capacity over the Bay, and we knew we needed capacity. But there's another issue there that I'd like to just mention, because it's one of the things that I was very concerned about. Because they had 5 lanes, they would put 2 lanes on the other bridge going one way, another lane coming that way. Well, let's think about that. Now we've got traffic facing one another with just a line separating them. And a lot of the folks that were traveling had been partying hardy all weekend. It's now Sunday night. They need to get home. They're still hungover, or they haven't had any sleep all weekend. They've got that rental
Party
with
time,
all their
right.
buddies. They've been partying in Ocean City. All you have to do is nod off a little bit and cross that yellow line, and boom, you're on a head-on collision on the Bay. And then the lines, westbound people trying to get home. I mean, they go back for miles. And that was happening with regularity. And, and then you remember we had one where the lady was swimming for her life. Ended up
came off the bridge.
Over the bridge. Anyway, that was
the
related.
guardrail, I remember
That was
that.
related as well. But we started clamoring for more safety on the Bay Bridge. You said, how many times do we have to have head-on collisions?
Fatality.
And can't we? And we all in the Washington area know the Roosevelt Bridge that has those movable barriers. So you got 3 lanes coming in the morning and 3 lanes going out at night. And so you add an extra lane each way, and they move those barriers. Well, I went to the Bay Bridge folks and said, why can't we put those in, have movable barriers so that we're barrier separating the traffic flows so that we end those so often deadly head-on collisions? And they did a study, and they decided that they were probably too heavy to put on the bridge. I'm not sure I agree. I hope that maybe the folks in charge will take another look, because those barriers can be lighter. They can be anchored. There's different ways of getting around that. But in any case, because we have that 5 lanes and we're running 2-way traffic, we called upon them to do something. And they have, if you've driven it recently, they've lined it. They've got put lights on it. They've done all kinds of things that really, really do make it safer, even though we don't have those barriers yet. But the number of head-on collisions and serious crashes have been lessened, dramatically reduced. And I think that was a result of AAA getting on a campaign and really doing press conference after press conference. And, one of the things that really bothered me was that they have these barriers to keep us from going in the bay. And we had a tractor trailer that was involved in a crash, and then it went over, and the driver drowned. He went into the water. And so that caused me to say, well, what are the requirements for these barriers? I went on the air and I said, I think we've got an engineering failure on the Bay Bridge. Oh, no, we don't have a failure on the Bay Bridge, an engineering failure. I said, well, please explain to me. I thought the purpose of a bridge was to get us from point A to point B dry. I thought that was at its base. Isn't that what a bridge is supposed to do? And if someone ends up in the water and drowns, and then right after
there is a problem.
There is a problem. And they said, no. Then they told me. They said that federal requirements for barriers only require that they hold in a passenger vehicle, not a tractor trailer, that we couldn't build a barrier strong enough to keep a tractor trailer from going. Okay, so fast forward, a few months, and then we get this lady in a car vaults over this thing and ends up in the water. She swam for her life, and they had to pluck her off of one of the pylons.
I remember it so vividly.
Well, I held a press conference there, and I quoted the engineers. I said, these barriers are only required to keep cars on the bridge. What's that car doing in the water? And I called on NHTSA. I said, come in and investigate. These are your requirements. We've had a crash now. Is this a failure? Are these barriers not meeting your requirements? They actually came in. And of course, there was a reason they came in, and it wasn't Lon Anderson. It was because Barbara Mikulski saw my comments and saw my press conference, and she weighed in and she said, yeah, we need that. And so with her support and AAA support,
you got the barrier.
And they came in and they said, no, this was a freak. But that forced them to look at the barriers. And another interesting thing that happened, we were getting close to Labor Day, and I got a call. I got a call from the Secretary of Transportation in Maryland, and he said to me, Lon, in accordance with AAA's request that we examine the barriers and everything, we've been x-raying the bolts and all of those things, and we found a lot of corrosion on those bolts that are holding the barriers on. It is dangerous. I told my staff to get busy on it right away. We need to fix those. He said, this is going to tie up some lanes over Labor Day, and I don't want AAA messing all over us on the air because we're doing work over a holiday weekend causing huge backups. You either support me or you're a hypocrite. He says, yes, this will cause backups, but yes, we're doing this because of the safety demands of AAA. What are you going to do? I said, I'm with you. I'm with you.
The public is going to have to take a lump for one weekend.
Yeah.
But it might have saved their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
right.
It was a tough Labor Day that year, but that's what, but
anyway, you saved some people, saved some lives. And well, I don't want to get away from this again, but I'm going to come back and talk about the fabulous work you've done and the AAA's done with the Schoolboy Patrol. And this is our town. And I was a schoolboy patrol person, and I did a fabulous job. Get back. Andy Ockershouse, and this is our town.
Hi, Tony Sybil here to tell everybody about our newest restaurant over off New York Avenue. It's called Ivy City Smokehouse, 1356 Oakey Street Northeast, right next to the Heck Company warehouse. It is terrific, and we have the only seafood smoker in the District of Columbia. So when you go to your grocery stores or your delis, ask for Ivy City products. 202-529-3300 or ivycitysmokehouse.com.
Our Town with Andy Ockershausen.
I'm talking to Lon Anderson, who has made the schoolboy, they don't call it patrol anymore. The
School Safety Patrol.
School Safety Patrol, a major part of high school life in the greater Washington area. And you're responsible for it. I love what they've done.
Well,
the kids are great.
The program was there before I got there, and it's there after I left. But, you know, it's a wonderful program. Tens of thousands of young people in the Washington metropolitan area. And some of them have gone on to become president, Supreme Court justices, members of Congress. Because, you know, in that School Safety Patrol program, you can move up the ranks. You can become a sergeant. And it teaches responsibility and teaches the importance of public service, saving other children. And each year we have, we give awards nationwide to school safety patrols who saved lives. And you have to have several adults who saw the incident where a school safety patrol steps off the curb and pulls a little child out of the way of a moving vehicle. It's amazing. And we celebrate the victories that those children have, and we give them an organization to belong to, and one where what they do can make a difference and they can be singled out and honored. And, I think children need something that makes them feel special about themselves. And if you can do that, I think you're working on the side of the angels, because a child who at a young age feels that he or she has potential that will take them far in life, I think that can help them separate and really make a success. And we have, we've got across the nation, we've had millions of children who've participated in the School Safety Patrol program. And,
it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And like you say, it's the first chance for somebody to really spring out a somewhat of a leadership role in school.
Absolutely.
When you get promoted. When I got promoted to sergeant, I was the happiest guy in town.
Oh.
I went to a red badge.
Yeah, it's
big time.
It's
brother.
a big deal. And then, of course, we ask the schools to each year to nominate their top patrols and give us a couple. And then we have a luncheon for them, and we have members of Congress come in and talk to them. We do special things. Again, but the other thing is, this does save lives of children, and it creates awareness of traffic safety for the children. And of course, one of the big emphasis today is school buses, because so many children don't walk to school anymore. They're on school buses. But school buses also, you've got children that will dart around, a paper will blow out, and the child will dart in front of a school bus.
All the time we see them.
Oh, yeah. So, it's very important. So it's safety. And of course, then I don't think we're doing it anymore, but for years we had a big parade down Constitution Avenue. You remember marching?
I was running the parade. That was so great to be in it, with blue shirts and a white ducks and that white ribbon. It was a great thing for the family. I was so proud of it. But you also have some victories in the local area with the road barriers, didn't you? Something on Mount Vernon Parkway that was very significant.
The GW Parkway.
GW Parkway.
I was back in, I think, about 1996 or so. In about the course of 5 or 6 months, we lost about 5 lives on a 5-mile stretch of the George Washington Parkway. And the problem is that while it used to be a bucolic little thing that was built in the Roosevelt administration.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
It was, the truth of it is, it had become, and still and is today, a high-speed commuter road.
Correct.
And you've got cars going in opposite directions, and they're doing 55, 65, 70 miles an hour. And in some areas along that road, there was only a foot or two of pavement separating and a median strip, and it might have been 6, 8 inches high. So if you're an fender bender on one side, the car would often, they'd lose control, hop over, and be in a deadly head-on collision. And the Park Service had a study they'd done 10 years before saying that they needed to barrier separate the traffic flow. Same deal as we just discussed about the Bay Bridge. And they couldn't find the money to do this. They couldn't find. Well, after one particularly bloody crash, and we've had, as I say, we lost 5 or 6 people in this 6 months. I went out and held a press conference on the side of the GW Parkway, and I said, this stretch of road may be the most dangerous stretch in America. AAA is declaring war on the GW Parkway. We declared war on the Parkway, and that was on a Tuesday. Well, that Saturday, the next Saturday, just 5 days after, my wife and I went to Wheaton Plaza. We went to a movie. And back in those days, you wore a pager, you know. They didn't have cell phones. And I had my pager on, and I'm in the middle of this movie in Wheaton Plaza, and my pager goes off. And there was a reporter, as I remember, from Channel 4, and she called me and she said, Lon, there has been another head-on collision on the GW Parkway. It looks like a war zone. And she said, and because of your press conference last Tuesday and you're declaring war, everyone in the media wants you here. Can you come down and hold a press conference? Talk to us about this. So, you know, I left the theater, drove over to the GW Parkway, got through the police lines, and oh my God, there was 2 destroyed cars, the pieces everywhere. It looked like a bomb had gone off. And, you know, we had a life lost, another one severely injured, and oh my God. And I stood there, you know, and I said, how much more blood must we spill before the Park Service does the right thing and recognizes that this is a high-speed commuter route and install the safety barriers that the federal government requires of every other road that is a high-speed commuter route? And so, of course, huge feeding frenzy in the media on this issue.
Yeah. They had a good turnout of cameras.
And so Monday morning, you know, I called Frank Wolf's office, and I talked to his legislative assistant, and I said, the media is in a feeding frenzy on the safety issue on the GW Parkway. You probably saw the media over the weekend, another fatal crash. I said, this is going through your area.
His district.
This is your district.
Right.
And you can be a hero, come out and demand some action by the Park Service. And oh, by the way, I think you're on the Appropriations Committee, oversees the Park Service. That's good. And then, you know, and I did this. I did the same thing with what was his name? Tom Davis.
Tom Davis, right?
Yeah. And then there was one other, Alexandria.
Jim Moran.
Jim Moran. I called Jim Moran. Same thing to each of those. And Jim Moran's office got very excited about this. Wolf's office got very excited about this. And Tom, for whatever reason, didn't. But that's okay. Well, a couple hours later, I got a call back. And they said, hang in there. We have an 11 o'clock meeting with head of the National Park Service. And Moran, it's going to be Moran and Wolf in the meeting. We'll call you afterwards. And a couple hours later, I got a call. And they said, barriers will be built on the Parkway within 6 months. They've suddenly found the money they couldn't find for 10 years since the last study saying they needed them. And we're going to have a press conference next Wednesday. Will you come? I said, of course. So there we were, Moran, Wolf, and Anderson out there with the Park Service announcing that they would put barriers in. And you know, some interesting things.
Your war.
Some of the people, we started getting some nasty comments and things. You know, barriers would be a desecration to this beautiful road. How dare you? How dare AAA? I said, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think dead bodies lying along the road are kind of a desecration too. And anyway, and then you know what the Park Service did? They, in some places along there, they built stone. Yeah. In other places, they just put in the metal. But where they put in the metal, they painted them brown. You drive along there, you don't even notice. You don't even notice these guardrails. And since then, we've had no more fatal head-on collisions.
Head-ons,
we had a couple
right.
of fatalities, generally run off the road hitting a tree.
Right.
But the head-on collisions that were causing most of the deaths on the GW Parkway ended. And I would submit the AAA won the war
Absolutely.
on the GW Parkway.
They should put you in charge of Syria and what's going on over there. Maybe AAA could win that. But you've had so many victories, and it's been wonderful, and I hope you don't miss it because we miss you. And I hope you stay as active as you have been, like in your involvement with rap.
Well, absolutely. I'm a proud member of the board, and I have
You
been.
were past
I
president, weren't you?
I was a chairman of the board
Yeah.
back in early 2000s for a couple of terms. But what a wonderful organization! And of course, a lot of AAA's policy work is complementary to RAP's because we're
absolutely.
fighting drunk driving all the time. How to keep drivers from imbibing too much and then getting behind the wheel. And of course, there's multiple populations there, but youth often tend to be they're never going to die. They know they're immortal, and they make bad decisions, and they're often drinking and driving, and of course that often happens, unfortunately, around celebratory times like graduation, and so we've been very happy to
Very
be part
active in that AAA.
We've been very happy to partner with RAP in the Washington metropolitan area to help get that message out, because RAP and Kurt Erickson, I happen to be the chairman who hired Kurt. And what a great hire that was, because he's provided so much leadership on the drunk driving
he's a
front.
dynamo, isn't
he is. And
I think maybe you don't know, but I think Janice Ockershausen discovered Kurt. Did you not, my dear?
American Lung Association.
American Lung Association. Well, that was an interesting conversation, because I took him to lunch and I said, now, Kurt, you and we're going to have to work together, because I'm chairman this term and probably be chairman for another term. And there are some in the American Lung Association who think that automobiles are the devil. I work for AAA, and I'm not going to hire a chairman for RAP who thinks that what I do is working in the devil's vineyard. And he looked at me. He said, "You don't have to worry." He said, "You can, check, but I'm not one of those who."
Wants to get rid of them.
Wants to get rid of automobiles and thinks. He said, he said, "I think we'll be able to work together just fine." And oh my gosh, have we worked together just fine?
It's been wonderful, and the whole rap experience with a lot of funding from the liquor business. I remember Budweiser came in 40 years ago, but it was in their self-interest to make sure we get these. We're not against drinking. We're against drinking and driving. That's what we try to.
Absolutely right. No one wants to take the glass of wine or or the cocktail out of someone's hand, but we all make choices, and the one choice that no one should make is to have several drinks and then get behind the wheel. That can end your life, it can end someone else's life, but it can end up having a profound change, and it's not one that anyone should want.
And you're so right. And thank you for all you've done with the AAA for rap. And remember, we got rid of the expression "one for the road." That we don't do that anymore. Yeah. You remember the old thing? Have a nightcap for the road, no more. We put a stop to that. Yeah. But Lon Anderson, you are a fabulous addition to our town. And as I say, all these places you mentioned is part of our town, whether it's Upper Marlboro or Vienna or whatever. We're one big group. We're all in this together.
And what a great metropolis we have here. I mean, it is unique, being the federal capital of the United States. And yet we have D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, and somehow we have to find a way, more or less, to all work together and realize that we're one community. We're not, by the way, the Maryland Beltway or the Virginia Beltway. We are the Beltway. Right. And it's hard to make transportation progress when people don't realize that. And we are one Washington metropolitan area.
And it all has to come together.
What a great place.
And that river separates more than just two counties or two cities. That river is such a big, important part of what we are.
It is.
Our town and that river go hand in hand.
But you know what? I recently visited Pittsburgh, and I found out that there are ways to bridge rivers. I don't understand why we can't figure out a way to do it better ourselves. Anyway.
I'm with you. If there's a river there, we got to bridge it. Well, Lon Anderson, you've been just wonderful, and thank you for all you've done for our town, and will continue to do, I hope. And, you know, we might say it, and maybe you'll remember WMAL is always here for you.
Well, Andy, you know, I'm honored to be interviewed by you because what a towering figure you've been, and what contributions you made from the Washington Redskins, whom I love, right? Right on through being in the middle of everything that was happening in Washington for so many years. And that's your personality. That's your force. And you've been a force to be reckoned with here. And
so
that's
many
great.
memories of a wonderful, wonderful time and a wonderful life. And nothing is more important than Janice, my wife, who is the producer, director, and my conscience. And we love what we're doing with this program. Love having you because you're a friend, and love what you've done. And thank you again, Lon Anderson.
Hey, thank you, Andy Ockershausen.
You've been listening to Our Town Season 1 with your host, Andy Ockershausen. New Our Town podcast episodes are released each Tuesday and Thursday. We welcome your comments and suggestions on how you like the show or who you'd like to hear from next. Catch us on Facebook at Our Town DC or visit our website at OurTownDC.com. Our special thanks to WMAL Radio in Washington, D.C. for hosting our podcasts.